Hey everybody, Scuff D here. This is my first stream video ever of all time, and I'm doing it with Horus Heresy Legions, which is a game that I've been playing now probably for the last 4 or 5 months since beta. Really loving it, enjoy the game. Anyways, I've seen some stream stuff before from other players. I don't want to rehash or repeat what's already been done. From what I've seen, a lot of the intro stuff, or just showing off some of the decks. One thing I do want to do though is for newer players or for people who are kind of interested in the game and want to look, I kind of want to go on a card by card breakdown. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm actually going to start off with the Sons of Horus, which are, excuse my thumb, getting used to using the phone. I don't try not to cover up the camera. Anyways, the Sons of Horus is the starting faction that you enter the game with, so it makes sense that it's the most accessible to everybody. I kind of want to go down through the cards, kind of break them out, what's seeing play, what's not seeing play, some of the uses for them. If you've got them, are they worth including? If you don't have them, are they worth hunting for, spending gems for in a shop? If you've got them and you don't know exactly what to do with them, maybe there's some options for you. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go through, and without going through a full breakdown on the warlords, that's where we'll start. I think each warlord deserves their own discussion, but we're just going to kind of go through the warlords in general. There's 4 of them for the Sons of Horus. We'll start off just down the list. So we've got Ezekiel Abaddon here. What's not to like? Abaddon's very popular. He's got the 35 health going for him. He's got basically a built-in seek and destroy. That's going to be useful pretty much every game. There's going to be only a few games. There are some decks out there that run 0 troops or minimum troops, but for the most part, dealing 3 damage to a troop, that's going to be good. To kind of go along beside him, you've got Loken. So Loken has got a high initiative. He's got a 5 less, and his option is he's going to deal 2 damage, which is less than the 3 from Abaddon. However, that can go to the Warlord. Loken, still very popular, sees a lot of play, a lot of folks use him, and of course he's your starting Warlord, so if you've got him, don't feel like you're missing out. Obviously after a while you kind of get bored playing with Loken, but he's a solid choice. Sons of Horus, overall, very solid. So, Horus Lupercal, owned 0. It's kind of shame to look at, but he is the Primarch, obviously. His ability is a little interesting. He's drawing a card. Sons of Horus have kind of that built-in card draw concept. His initiative is high. His Whispers of Chaos, which you can't see here, I believe is a reduced cost for each Chaos card played. So his deck requires a little bit more thought in terms of how you're going to build it. Are you going for the Whispers, or are you just going to go with the Sons of Horus card pool? But being able to draw a card when you need it, when you're looking for certain things, that's certainly not a bad thing. And then 40 health is obviously, aside from a couple cards who can claim a little bit higher with Survivor, that's the highest health you're going to get in the game. And then you've got Targadon, who is just popular. He's the guy at the party everybody wants to play right now, and for a couple reasons. You got 35 health, you've got high initiative, you've got heal 1 to a friendly troop at the end of a turn, which can pay dividends in certain matchups and keeping your one troop alive a little bit longer, making somebody run at him a little bit longer, keeping them just out of Korvax range, and then of course 2 damage or 2 energy, deal 1 damage. If they die, if target dies, you draw a card. What's not to like? It pretty much delivers on 3 fronts there, and obviously there's a lot of different ways to play with him. He's seeing play for a good reason. So we'll start off with the 1-drops here. This is really basic. Abacal Squad, drop pod for 1 energy. Drop pods giving him 2 health. You don't really see these too often, maybe in event decks, and for 1 energy, I wouldn't. But if you don't have any other options, that 2 drop pod, it's a way to go. Frag Grenade. Frag Grenade's pretty decent, especially in splash damage, which, especially with the stealth that's going on right now, splash damage is not a bad concept between Frag Grenades, satellites, or artillery strike. You've got some ways to deal with some of those stealth targets, but it's also a great way to drop health down for Targadon, or for Abaddon, or for Loken. I mean, those guys can drop a 3 to a 2, and then take them out, or a 4 to a 3, and then it's not a bad choice. Quickfire is another great choice. Quickfire, 1 energy, 2 damage, boom. To a Warlord or to a unit. It sees a lot of inclusion in pretty much most Sons of Horus decks I encounter. There are some who opt out to use it for other cards, but for the most part, again, you're never not going to use that card if it's in your hand. There's going to be a time for you to play it. So, Dasturk Squad. I apologize if I'm butchering these names. This is actually the first time I'm saying these names out loud, but Dasturk Squad is a great card to get out early on. You get those guys on the table, they're sore first turn. They're going to cause some problems outside of maybe an opponent's drop pod army, or an army or deck that's not running too many characters. They become an early target early on, which is good because it draws fire away from your Warlord, and they cause a little distraction. So Kaban Squad. Kaban Squad is a good card. It's a rare card. Deal 2 damage to a troop when it's entering in rally. It's got 2 health, 2 cost, 2 attack. It's a good little thing, but I'm seeing some of them played a little bit less more recently because of some of the builds that are running less troops, or because of the influx of stealth, making it harder to utilize these guys properly with the rally. If there's not a character or a troop a troop, not a Warlord, on the table, you're not going to really be able to utilize these guys to their fullest, and they kind of sit in your hand for a little bit. If you got them, and you've got looking for another inclusion, they're certainly worth it. They're really worth it when you combine it with Second Wave. You get a couple of those guys thrown out, and then you Second Wave them, and you've got a couple more to go for the next turn. Not a bad choice. It just depends on your build and what you're looking for. And they combo again with, Targadon, Loken, Abaddon's a great way to drop those high health guys, get a troop out, and then hit somebody. So Lakaz Squad, I see a little bit occasionally as just a 2-cost troop. There's not a lot to it. It's going to get 1 hit off. You might find a way to buff its health a little bit, but with the drop pod, it should stay on play. That doesn't always guarantee that it will. It's an okay inclusion. Resupply, draw 2 cards. This card is very solid, very usable in any Horus deck. It depends with the new abandoned supplies. Kind of shakes things up in terms of choosing between resupply and abandoned supplies. You could run a deck that uses both, but resupply is giving you 2 cards for the price of 1, and if you've got a low cost deck, that's not a bad thing at all. If you've got a higher cost deck, abandoned supplies is going to pay dividends in that regard. So Second Wave, this is another card that I don't have, but it's actually very useful if your deck is key on getting certain troops out, or more troops out, or abusing those gold stones, abusing those, as we saw the earlier squad here, the Kaban Squad, or you can get 3 Dasturk Squads out. I've only seen that done once, but man, that is just a headache. So Second Wave, not a bad option if you have it and you're looking for a little 2-spot. It does require you to get some people on the board and keep them there at least for a turn, to really get the utility out of that card. Smoke Grenade is not bad. It's got the auto inclusion in here of the draw card for the Sons of Horus, which is on most of their tactics. Stunning an enemy almost always is useful. You're always going to be able to draw it out of turn, whether it's a Warlord. If they've got that big nasty unit that they've got, you can buy yourself some time with the Smoke Grenade. There's only a couple counters to removing stun, so it's useful, and it gets you a card in your hand. It's a low energy. It's a great way to swing momentum for a moment. if you're on the fence about it and you're thinking about it, it's not bad, not worth, not a disregard at all. But Bane Strike rounds, you might want to have these as a one-of in a deck if you've got multiples and you're early on in the game and you don't have too many other options. You might choose something else, but I don't see too many of the Bane Strike rounds going as multiples. A lot of people run with the Mechindrites, rely on that more for various buffs. But +4 is a massive swing. If you get that on there end game, that could be 7 health, 7 with the goldstones, and then you throw on there, double attack. I'm spacing the actual term for it, but then that becomes 14 for the cost of 3 + 3. So for 6 energy, you're doing 7 energy, you're doing 14. So that's a pretty good exchange rate. But is it worth including for 2 of them? Probably not. Grover Squad. That's seeing a lot of play in Tarek decks. It's great because you can get the 3, drop it to 1 health, but with Tarek, he brings them back up to 2 health, so you know they're going to stick around for another turn. Same thing for Goldstone. The difference between here is they're not unstoppable, so Frontline are going to throw a little factor on here, even though their picture has jump packs on it. Sorry, they're not unstoppable. So they've got their purpose, though. They're 3 for 3. It's kind of like a pseudo Seek and Destroy that can actually hit Warlords too. Coggart Squad is the same cost for it. The only exception is instead of fast, they've got drop pod, and they are unstoppable. So if you had the choice between the 2 of them, I would still go with the Grover Squad, not just because of rarity, but because fast is going to see results, whereas Coggart Squad can often get put down and then also still, even with the drop pod, destroy the next turn. So it's a toss-up, but if you had the choice, I'd still go with the Grover Squad. So Murdask Squad, I don't know if I'm saying that right. This one's in here a lot. I've seen, especially in the Tarek decks, for the simple fact, I think, of the Backlash draw card. Sons of Horus love drawing cards. When you've got a low-cost deck, or you're looking for those 4 or 5 cards that you want to combo off, you want to draw as many cards as you possibly can. So not only do you have tactics drawing your cards, if you've got units who can draw your cards for dying, hey, why not? That's not a bad thing. So Party Squad, I don't see him play a lot, and I think that a lot of people contribute out to the Chaos cards not being so great. That's not entirely Chaos's fault. They're good at corrupting things, but Sarpati Squad requires a deck not necessarily built around it, but it kind of fits in more of a Chaos heavy deck. It would be good in a Horus deck, but you don't see them play a whole lot. You wouldn't want to drop them by themselves. If you can drop them and then drop a Chaos card and then start improving them right away, that's how you'd want to play it. If you have other options in the 3 range between Sarpati, Grogar, Meldrix, Murdask, and Coggart, you'd probably want to pick any of those over this guy unless you're building your deck a certain way. So Stock Arounds is not one I see. I don't see between the 3 rounds that the Sons of Horus have, I don't see Stock Arounds a whole lot. I've seen it in event decks, and I think in certain decks it could be very good. It gives sneak attack to all of your troops, not just one, but all of your troops get sneak attack this turn, which is great if you've got 4 or 5 low cost guys, or 2 or 3 big guys but low health, or you want to keep them in that vital range. It's not bad, and also, sneak attack is a good thing to have. But again, I don't see a lot of play. That doesn't mean that it's not in decks, that maybe it's just not getting used, but with the current trend in the meta, there's a lot of light troop decks, so that could be one reason why we're not seeing it a lot. Treachery is also another one that requires you to have troops on the table to see the multiple benefit for it. Technically, if you're looking at point cost, Treachery is a 3 cost, which is the equivalent of 3 Marks of Chaos. So you would want to have at least 3 troops to benefit from it. But in addition to that, you need to have Astartes troops. So your normal troops, or your vehicle infantry, or your demons are not going to benefit from Treachery. It's a cool art. It's a cool concept. I ran it way early on, I think when I was like around Prospero with Abaddon for a bit, but ultimately it's just not worth it in my opinion. Speaking of not worth it in my opinion, Abaddon's Chosen. I think I've seen the seat play in an event deck once. It is probably the only draw card tactic that the Sons of Horus have that I just don't like. Shield. It's a 4 energy. It draws you a card, and it gives shield. You can get that with a Mechandrite for 1 energy without the card draw. Shield is good for a moment, but there are a lot of destroys. There are a lot of return to hand effects that will get around shield for the cost and for what it does. It just, Abaddon's Chosen. I've chosen not to include that in my Abaddon deck. That's my choice. And I think Abaddon would be smart to do that too. Charity to the Gods. This is just a solid card. It's a common. You should have access to it if you've started the game just recently. If not, you should quickly get it. It deals 4 damage, which is going to pretty much lethal anything early game around turn 4 to begin with. And it draws a card. Again, Sons of Horus, that's what they do. They get their stuff, they put it out there, and it delivers. It's a 2 of, maybe a 1 of in a higher tier deck if it's built a certain way, but I mean, it's 4 for 4. That's solid. I don't have much more to say about that. Chandon Squad. You see these guys in event decks all the time. I have seen them in Tarek decks, again for good reason, because at the 6/3, they're gonna do their damage. They're gonna sit there and they're gonna heal up, and then they're gonna be a threat the next turn that you're gonna have to deal with. They've got drop pod in addition to that, so around turn 4, turn 5 they come in. It makes them a little bit harder to deal with. So definitely something that if you've got as a 4-troop range, worth considering in your Sons of Horus deck. Durkle Squad, I don't see these guys enough, and I think for the simple reason is, number one, they're not protected, and there's other 4 costs that just do things better. Yes, they're unstoppable, they're a 5 for 3, but 3 is that health range really where they become susceptible to a lot of instant kill removal. So you throw a 4 cost out there and they're gone the next turn, and you've lost the momentum. So as a common, if you had the choice between Chandon and Durkle, you can see the payoff right there, not just in terms of unstoppable and the attack up. Drop pod makes a big difference. That basically not only becomes 5 damage, it becomes 2 actions to kill, or it becomes a straight destroy action to get rid of. So if you had the choice between those 2, Chandon Squad all the way. Landing Zone is really neat. It draw a card at the end of your turn. You'll be drawing cards, lots of cards. If you can get 2 of these out, your hand will go, and your deck might actually, depending on the game and the length of it, might actually peter out. But I like Landing Zone. If I can squeeze it in a deck, I try to. It draws fire a little bit. If somebody has nothing else to pick on, they might go for it. You can't attack with it, so those things usually don't see play. But drawing a card in the Sons of Horus deck, especially in a Tarek deck, where they're going to have to take multiple turns to deal with it if they don't have anything big, because he's going to keep healing it. That's nice to have. Alright, let's scroll up here. Some Metal Storm rounds. You need this. You need, as a Sons of Horus player, especially if you're running Goldstones or you've got Groger Squad, Cleave is... I know the rarity's hard. If you see it in the shop and you don't have it, pick it up. Pick up at least 1. Again, ones of in a Sons of Horus deck with a lot of card draw are going to be more rewarding than some other decks. If you can get 2, and you've got 2 Goldstones, and you've got 2 Grogers, and even if you've got a couple of those 2 cost guys and drop pods and they can make it through a turn, Cleave 4 can clear a board, depending on who you're facing. It's definitely useful against Raven Guard, who have got their buddies in stealth, and that they don't make their squad order right on the table, or they like to buddy up people right next to their Warlord. Boom, you hit the Warlord for 3. You could even hit for 2 if you throw it on like a cheap 2-attack guy, doesn't matter. You're going to hit cleave 4 on the guys next to him. That's going to kill everybody except for Moore right now. And then you could just follow that up with a frag grenade, and boom, he's done. So 4 plus whoever's on the table, or you could throw that with a 3 cost goldstone and 4. So for 7, you could potentially eliminate 2 units and deal 3 damage to a warlord. That's pretty good. So that's a very rewarding card. Zetsa Squad. I like the rally on this. I'm not a fan of the art, and I know that I just don't like chaos art in general. It's too chaosy for me. But I like the concept of any card that comes in and rallies and gets a Mark of Chaos, because you never know what you're going to get, and usually it's going to be intimidating to your opponent. But without any sort of protection, and they're in the 3 health range, they're a little flimsy, they're a little frail. And again, the Chaos deck with Sons of Horus, you got to build it. I think you're better off going with something else. And I think more times than 10 you're going to go with the Mechanicum troop, whose name I can't pronounce right now because I'm not going to bounce over there. But in your 4-drop range, I think you're going to go with that guy over this guy, because not only is he going to give you Mechadrites and become a target, he might last 1 extra turn longer with the 4 health. So Backert, 5 for 5. Drop pod. If you're new to the game, you don't have too many high attack options. Anything over that 4 health range is definitely worth considering. Later on, if you've got a lot of high rarities, you might not go with this guy. But again, that drop pod does keep him around a little bit longer. 5 attack is pretty nice around turn 6. It's good to start having the high attack range damage. 5 health is also going to keep him out there, unless they've got an instance destroy or something to throw right down his face. He's going to hit something. So if you've got if you don't have too many options, he's worth considering. I personally like this guy better. Chaggart Squad. Initially, he doesn't have the drop pod. He does become a target because his effect is rewarding. Deal 3 damage. That can include a warlord for 1. So you get him out there, and you keep him around for 1 extra turn. You're trading his 5 damage from heading on attack. He's not somebody that you would actually attack with. You'd use his ability to ping him for 3, make them run at him or throw something at him. If you hit him with 5 and he's lower health, it's easier for them to dispose of him. You want to have them not only burn the cards from their hand to take with him, but burn their action. So if they've got a warlord and you're sitting with this guy here, and you drop him, and for some reason they can't get rid of him, or they can't deal with him, or he's still out there and he's got 1 health left, don't attack with him. Use your 3, unless it's, I guess, game winning, because on their next turn, they've still got to come up with a way to deal with him, whether that means running somebody down his face, blowing a tactic on him, or doing something. If they don't, you're going to hit him with another 3 damage. That's 6, and realistically, most good players will find a way to deal with them as quickly as possible, because they understand the threat that these guys pose. 3 damage is that lethal range. It's going to kill a lot of troops. It stacks up very nicely. So I prefer Chaggart over Backart. Chaggart over Backart. But they're even better if you can find a way to protect them for a turn. Frontal Assault. This sees play, especially in the mini decks that I've seen with Tarek. You drop a few 2-range guys, you drop some of those guys in the drop pod late game. You've got 4 or 5 units that some players can't deal with, and then you frontal assault, and that's game, because 4 times 3 is 12, plus the actual damage from those units. That's going to just clear things up. It's nice, but it requires your deck to be built around the concept of using it. And one thing that many Sons of Horus decks do is they run less troops, heavy troops, good troops to have, but they go for that one, that spear tip assault, which is actually very attributable to how the Sons of Horus, that was their thing, like spear strike right to the heart, boom, that's it, game over, done. So that's how a lot of decks run with that, and so frontal assault's kind of on that range. If you build a deck one way, you can use it. If not, if you're going for much more instant damage, direct damage, one turn hits, then frontal assault is probably not for you. There's better options. See some of the pre-existing rounds that we've talked about, Bane Strike rounds or whatnot. Cadric Squad, Cleave 4. These guys are pretty much an include if you've got them. They're a target, yes, but if you can get them out there, I've seen people get them out there and then use sorry, the name, I just looked at it, Second Wave, to give themselves another one, because you can only deal with a threat with instant cards so many times. So if you get rid of one, there's another one backing them up. 4 damage, 5 health. 5 health means that they're going to last a turn if they can, and that Cleave 4 just puts the pressure on the board. You've got to get rid of these guys quickly, or they're going to keep the board minimal, and that just is rewarding whatever army you play. You want that board to be yours. You want to own it. So, outflank, possibly the best common for the Sons of Horus. Destroy an enemy troop. Yes, it's 5 cost. That's once you hit turn 5, you start seeing those things like Cadric Squad, Targust, and many of the others in the other legions. Outflank deals. It doesn't matter what you are. How big are you? Doesn't matter. Do you have shield? Doesn't matter. Do you have drop pod? Doesn't matter. Stealth is the only thing that outflank isn't gonna say, get out of here. We outflanked you. You're gone. You're gone. What do you got? You got 13-13? You're gone. Outflanked. So 2 of in any Sons of Horus deck if you can. There might be 1 or 2 periphery lists that don't run 2. If you have the option, that's always a 2 of, because there will always be a unit that you want to kill. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There will always be a unit that you'll want to kill, and that outflank will do it every time. Targust. Targust is a 5, decently rewarding. I don't like his cost for his ability. It's nice if you're building with some of those cheap buddy guys to drop out the following turn after Targust is still on the table, and give him Mark of Chaos. I don't see that happen too often, though, to be honest with you. Usually Targust comes out and then he gets bounced back, or he gets destroyed, or, you know, somebody throws him down the face instead of using his first passive. But he's got a drop pod and he's got 7 health, so he's actually a 5 for 9, requiring 2 actions to get rid of him. As an epic or a legendary rare, he's a very good legendary rare. Not bad. Again, your build will kind of have to choose whether or not you utilize him in certain ways, but he's if you've got a legendary, usually 9 times out of 10 you're going to want to include him in your deck, unless you've got too many legendaries to choose from, in which case this video isn't for you. Scrota Squad. I don't like these guys. I don't like these guys. Not just because it's chaos artwork. They cross that thresh range, which for me, the cost versus reward is not worth it. Yes, they're a 5 attack. Yes, they're a 5 health, but they're 6 cost. If they were a 5 cost with the Mark of Chaos Rally, that would be a little bit better, but they're not. They're a 6 cost, and at 6, there's better things that you can get. You don't know what you're going to get with those Mark of Chaos. I don't like these guys enough. So I would pass on it. If you don't have any other options, or you're lacking in the 6 range department, you might want to include those guys. But, you know, especially for the decks that are running a lot of tactics, that's 2-3 tactics for the cost of this 1 card, which can't do anything the turn it comes in, and you're not exactly sure what use it will have when it gets that Mark of Chaos. So I just don't like it. Thunder of Horus. I see these in event decks. I don't see them anywhere else. 4 for 8 seems impressive, but it doesn't do anything, and it's a vehicle, so it can't even benefit from cards that benefit your troops. I just don't like it. I'd pass on it if you could. There's better choices, especially if you're talking 6 vehicle. You want to go with the mortar launcher over Thunder of Horus. The Dark Squad. I like the idea behind this card. I really do. I just don't ever see it used to its full effect. You got a 5 for 6. He comes in and he gets a massive boost for each friendly troop you have with a Mark of Chaos, which, if you built the deck right and in proper circumstances, you might have 2+, usually 2, troops with a Mark of Chaos, in which case he comes in and he gets 4/2, so he becomes a 9/8, and he has drop pod. That's nice. And he's a 6 cost, but as a 6 cost, you're in that state of the game where he can be dealt with just as easily. He could be bounced. He could be destroyed. And to go with it, he is only getting his full use if you've got other cards which you've managed to get use from too. So for what he gets and what he does, if you're looking for a way to include him, you'd have to build your deck, I think, a certain way to really maximize his potential. And then the question is, are you building a deck around him, or are you building a deck with the concept to play as much chaos as possible? In which case, maybe Horus is the Primarch. You gotta get Horus first, and good luck. It's getting a Primarch. You should pat yourself on the back that day. I've got a couple, and it felt really nice. So if you can get Horus and you want to do Valdark Squad, then more power to you. Descartes. I like this guy. And some people don't. I like him every time he shows up as an event warlord. That's always fun. I like him for not just the fact that he's an 8/6, his deal 2 damage to all enemies. I would just sit back with that unless I needed to use that 8 damage for something very important. Especially nowadays with the splash, with the stealth, having the ability to do 2 damage to all enemies eliminates a lot of the stuff that the Raven Guard like to hide in shadows quickly. Combined with some of the other area attack, random attack damage, you can eliminate those Moors very quickly. You could even potentially take down a Dark Fury if everything worked out perfectly in your favor. Although, depending on timing, Dark Fury might just go for Descartes right off the bat. But I like him. I like Descartes. Depending on the speed of your deck, you might opt out of the 7 cost. But if you're early on, or you're in that mid tier, you're around Mars, or is it Prospero before Mars? I don't know the order. I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've been on Mars, but he's worth looking into. I like him. Just as a one-of, I wouldn't throw into more than one in a deck. When you get into that 7+ range, unless it's a certain card that you're building around or that you're looking to draw quickly, I try to cut that down. Malgahurst. I got this guy from the shop when he popped up finally. He's a great character in the stories. He's definitely got some interesting character to him. And as a card, 7 for an 8/8 on his own merits, that's impressive. His ability is great. I've seen him comboed with Mechindrites to just do whopping closeout damage too if you can't deal with him in a turn. So that's definitely a factor. He's just got that high damage output, but his ability to basically put any tactic that your opponent plays into your hand does so many things. Like, number one, first off, it's going to give you a card. Right now there's a bug in the game that they're looking to fix, where the cards, if there's a destroy card that is used on Malgahurst, he doesn't copy that. He is supposed to copy that. So even if they use a destroy and outflank on Malgahurst, you get outflank. So they have to choose how to deal with him pretty much with troops, as best as possible, or give up the fact that, okay, I'm going to give you this card and knowing that you have it, but the payoff is worth it. In addition to that, while he's out there, for the most part, players are not going to want to play tactics while he's out there, unless they are specifically to get rid of him, and then it's trading, or the lesser of two evils, I guess, essentially. But he puts that pressure on it, because now if I play this card, yeah, it might give +2 attack, Now I just give it to him. Why am I doing this? Why do I keep giving him cards? Why am I giving you cards? Why am I giving you my cards? Malgahurst is an all-star for Sons of Horus. Even if you're not running too many Legion cards in your deck, if you run Sons of Horus Warlord and you got Malgahurst, first off, congratulations on the legendary. You deserve it. Put him in your deck. You're never going to be sad when you're able to put him on play. The Joradon Land Raider, which is the only, I think, epic that I don't have for Sons of Horus. It makes me sad. Nice passive. I like these when they pop in event decks, especially if you can get these out and they survive a turn, and then the next turn you drop out like 2 or 3 cheapy troops who all of a sudden are +1/+1s. That's great. They do have to be Astartes troops though, so it's not going to benefit your other vehicles. So when you have got them in your deck, you may want to look at the other troops that you have in your deck in terms of what type they are, because if you're running a lot of vehicles and not enough Astartes, not Mechanicum, not Imperial Guard, then they're not going to pay off. So they do have to be built in a certain way. They're neat. I wouldn't include them in my current Sons of Horus decks, but there's something worth looking into. Abandoned supplies with these guys, getting these out at a cost 6 is nice. That's the turn, that +1/+1 makes a big diff. Valak Predator, this is one I believe that comes in your entry into the game. An 8 for 3 damage to the Warlord can be useful. 9 damage to deal with, and a 6 health. The 6 health makes it a little less durable, and it's definitely not to be discounted. If you've got it and you're looking for some sort of big heavy closeout and you find your forces are a little frail and at the 8 range, you may want to include 1. It's definitely not a 2 of. It does a nice rally, but after that it doesn't do much. And to be honest with you, I think the Sons of Horus have got a lot of selection for direct damage for less, so it's definitely a bigger trade-off. Obviously, between the two, Valak Predator with your 8 cost or Vengeful Spirit with your 8 cost, Vengeful Spirit every time. When you see this in the shop, this is a must. Most legendaries when you see in the shop are a must if you can get out of here. But 8 damage, draw a card. 7 out of 10 times, I'd say. Used to be a little bit more, but the decks are getting a little bit more cagier. The 8 damage is the game ender. If you get into that 8 damage range and you're playing a Sons of Horus deck, you know at any given time this can come out. Unless you're Korax and you can buy yourself a turn by stealthing, but even then, it's a threat. That 8 damage range, and you'll notice that it still leaves you, if you're in turn 10, it still leaves you 2 damage to do with Loken, 1 damage to do with Tarek. It's a scary point to be in a game. So Vengeful Spirit, All-Star, yes, it's in my Sons of Horus deck. It should be in yours if you have it. The Punisher. No, this is I passed on this in the shop a couple times. I wouldn't do it. It does not enough. It does nothing when it comes in. It costs 9, so you can't play any other card aside from maybe Frag Grenade. You can't even use a Warlord ability in that turn that it comes in. It has 10 health. Ooh, but you're in that late game, so it can be destroyed. It can be bounced. It doesn't do enough, and then it costs 4 to deal 10. That sounds really awesome, but it has to survive, and I just no. I'd pass on that. I expect more from that. Come on, rally, draw a card. No, give me something else. I don't like it. Fellblade Katak. Look at this guy. Boom, he rallies. He destroys an enemy troop. You mean for one less rarity, you can actually straight do something when he comes in, and he has more health. If I had to choose between the two, I think I'd take the Fellblade over the other one. I still don't think I'd take the Fellblade. I mean, when it comes time to cut corners and you're looking for card use utility, that's nice, but it's random, so it's not, you don't get to choose, and they need to have troops to really benefit from it. If you're at turn 10 and you have to make a choice, do I play this and not get the rally effect, but I put an 8 on the table, or do I wait to see if they're going to play a troop that I can destroy? And what if that troop at that point is a souped up goldstone? It's not gonna make it some big of a deal. So yeah, I like it over the Punisher, but I still don't think it's worth including. Seduction of Chaos is another art that I'm not a fan of. I like that it ties into the title of the card. As a one of, I think it's great. It's worth including, maybe, depending on your deck. If you're going with a tactic heavy deck, that's not a bad option. It's not something you want to play if they have Malgarhurst on table, because then they get a Seduction of Chaos that they can play to take your Malgarhurst back, and then you get the Seduction. So I guess maybe you would want to play it, and you guys could just trade Malgarhurst back and forth. That would be kind of fun to watch. But it's not an auto include, and having 2 copies is a no-go. So it's a cool concept. It's the only currently card in the game that takes cards from your opponent, which irritates a lot of people when it happened. And you know, it's never fun. You're like, all right, I got my 9 drop out, and they're like, yeah, well, he's mine now. How do you like that? Cades. That's why I like Cades. He's in stealth. He's safe. He's safe from that. Even if they break stealth, they don't have any energy remaining to use seduction until the next turn. So, but yeah, it's not. It's a nice turnaround at the end of the game, I guess, if you're at that point. If you've got the space, you might want to look at how your deck is flowing, if it works. If you're new into the game and you're early on and you've got that, you're going to be happy when you see it. So it's definitely something to consider, especially over Fellblade Katak between Seduction of Chaos. I'd take Seduction of Chaos because you get to choose which unit you're taking, as opposed to Fellblade being a random destroy. You're keeping it on the table, you're gaining the benefit from it, and you have the choice of which one that you're going to get. So if they've got multiple ones out. So take that for what it is. So anyways, that is all the Sons of Horus cards that I've gone through. I've tried to kind of give my thoughts, my opinions on it, some ideas where I've seen them, some concepts in terms of how to utilize. I hope if you're newer to the game, or you're kind of looking into Sons of Horus, as if you haven't had exposure from playing the Loken, you know, probably for a couple weeks until you got yourself another Warlord, you can see what the full range of the Sons of Horus cards can bring and offer for you. I hope this video was useful for you. It's my first streaming video. I look to do more of these in the future. I'll probably be looking at Mechanicum, Imperial Guard, and Chaos following this one, just for the simple fact that those are very entry cards that are accessible for everybody. And then I'll look into the other starting legions, because those, again, are much more easily accessible. I definitely would like to do some stuff regarding breakdown for each of the warlords, but that's a whole other discussion altogether, I guess. Maybe that's much more deck profiling. I'd like to see some more of that type of content, so I hope this is something that you've enjoyed listening to. It's definitely not visually striking. I mean, I'm just looking at the card list that you can look at too, but I hope that puts some thoughts in your head, or some things that you can agree with. If there's some things that you disagree with, that's great. That's part of the discussion. That's sometimes that's why we play the game. I love to get proven wrong. You know, I love to see somebody use something, and then when they pull a rabbit out of the hat, it turns into something else. I can applaud that. Unfortunately, the chat discussions in the game themselves don't allow themselves for much applause or interaction, but maybe that's a good thing too. I'd really like to avoid some of the negative chatter that some games can get. So anyways, I love Legions. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed playing with it. I've only spent $7.99 for 10 tickets one time. That's it. I will admit to spending money on this game once. As a free-to-play game, the rewards have been really fun in terms of the gameplay and the mechanics. There's a lot of options. If you're on the fence or you're kind of seeing how it pans out and how the game plays out, it pays out once you start playing. You play a little bit more, you get more rewards, and then you find more things to do with your deck, and you feel better about yourself. And just like any other collectible card game, that's kind of the nature of it. That's how it goes, and I think it's a very fun experience, especially if you are a fan of the Horus Heresy, the characters, the Warhammer 40k, 30k universe. There's a lot to like. I'm a fan, and I just wanted to share my thoughts and opinions out there with everybody else. So anyways, I hope you found this video to your liking. Leave comments if there's anything that you'd like to see or have discussed. I'm kind of trying to make a list for things to do that for. I do have the music and the sound effects on this turned off because I believe they show up really loud in the video themselves. So I might not hear it, but it would just overpower my voice and you wouldn't hear anything I'm saying. So for the most part, there's no way for me to change the volume in the game and the recording app. So that's why it looks like it's just silence and you're hearing me talk.